nwotaser.com. Now, for the rest of the hour, we're joined by the premier trends forecaster, Gerald Celente. He said last year that by the end of the year, it would be evident that the dollar was dying, that we were in a depression. Well, then the media didn't admit there was a depression, and they said, oh, Gerald's wrong. But look at the London Independent analysis, the London Guardian, the Associated Press. All the news this week says we're worse than depression-level housing slump, worse than depression-level job losses. They've been cooking the numbers. There never was a recovery. So the hoax is breaking. Gerald Celente was right. He wasn't wrong. The Arabs are saying they're not going to increase output of oil. All of that is happening. We've got a lot of intel from inside the Bilderberg Group. I'll go over later in the hour what's on their agenda. Bigger war in the Middle East as a political distraction, who they're going to replace at the IMF. So much key information, but it's happening, and these are the people that have done it by design. Joining us is Gerald Celente via video Skype. Thank you for joining us, Gerald. And his audio cut out. We'll go to him. Video Skype's great for the prisonplanet.tv viewers, and the audio quality's better. That's why we do it. But sometimes the technology can be a bit jumpy, obviously, as you've seen from our folks reporting. But what's great, we have Gerald Celente with us. Gerald, here are the global crime syndicate, white shoe boys, as you call them, meeting openly, most of them the heads of the banks that are looting us, and the police are treating reporters like scum and threatening to arrest them and snatching their passports from them. Gerald Celente.
Well, you know what I used to say over and over again, and people didn't want to hear it. If the names on Wall Street were named Celente, Caruso, Mondavi, Puccini, Rossini, they'd call it the mafia. But as you point out, you can't call the white shoe boys crooks and criminals. Oh, no, they dress nice, and they have good language, and they go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Oxford, Eton boys. Oh, no, they're proper. You know, they're raping this country, International Monetary Fund. You know, if Dominique Strauss-Kahn is allegedly guilty of raping that woman, it's just what the IMF does. They're either raping a person or raping a country. You pointed it out. They call it privatization. What they do is they force countries into bankruptcy by their banking deals. And as you also pointed out, who do the Greek people owe this money to? Oh, the German and French banks and other criminal groups that made bad bets, and they can't lose. So what are they doing? Well, we have to privatize. Privatize? Oh, again, white shoe boy language. That means taking expensive public resources and selling them very cheaply to your buddies. So what we're looking at here, Alex, is really criminal activity that's in front of all of us. And you nailed it, and what you're doing is terrific by exposing it. And as you well point out, I remember 20 years ago, there was this little newspaper, I think it was called Liberty Lobby, and they used to write about the Bilderbergs, and nobody believed them. Nobody, oh, they were these crazy people. The takeover has happened, and it's not socialism. I make this really clear. The merger of state and corporate powers is called fascism, and all the police are, the ones that you're talking about, the police in the countries around the world are nothing more than enforcers for the government crime bosses. The morality of the police is disgusting, is what's happened. As you pointed out, that video about breaking down the door at 6 o'clock in the morning because the guy didn't pay, his wife didn't pay his student loan, one after another. So the people better stand up because, boy, oh boy, the steamroller's ready to roll, and they're going to roll you over.
Gerald, for those that don't know, the footage is up at Infowars.com and prisonplanet.com. The Department of Education, the feds have basically federalized all local police. They just show up and order them to SWAT team someone when debtor prisons are illegal. But I see articles every day where they're arresting people for unpaid debts. And then I see the article where the police did do their job in Florida, where for 5 months the bank said you never owned the house. That people paid cash. Bank of America, you don't have a deed. You took their luxury home. And finally, the police did the right thing and did their job. And when they went into the bank to seize the Bank of America branch and take the money out of the bank to pay them their hundreds of thousands back, under court order, the banker reportedly said, well, you can't do this. We're Bank of America. These guys think, and they've committed so many crimes, that they're God and can do this, but their comeuppance is coming. The awakening is happening to these criminals, and Bank of America is part of the big global 6 mega banks that own the IMF and World Bank and that own the Federal Reserve shares. And the people are identifying them, and the people are awakening.
Well, they better awake. You know, I just heard James Carville, the Democratic strategist. And he's now saying what I said 2 years ago was going to happen. But, of course, now it's making news, and they're not calling him crazy.
Imminent civil unrest.
Exactly. You know, I've been saying this for how long? And that's what's going to happen. You know, I hear it's very simple. You know, I've been giving this a lot of thought. The only way this is going to change, we're not going to have a third party. It's rigged against us. Let the people vote. Let the people vote. Every major issue, war, bailouts, immigration. Let the people vote. You talked about Switzerland. What do they have in Switzerland? Other than the money cockroaches, what they have in Switzerland is direct democracy. The representatives in this country don't represent us. Let's make this really clear. What they call campaign contributions, you know, that's kitty talk for bribes and payoffs. Let the people vote. Let the people vote on every issue. We do not have a representative form of government. It's a takeover. Washington is controlled by Wall Street. The only way I see it changing, Alex, if you go back to TARP, the people would have never voted for it. If you put the war on Libya in front of the people, they would never vote for it. If you put up, do you want to keep the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan going, the people won't vote for it. That's the only way I see out of this, a direct democracy on major issues.
Well, you're absolutely right. And in every case in history, tyrants' undoing is that they reach too far. They get away with so much that they think they can do whatever they want. It's like Wiener. I mean, what type of person in their right mind, especially a prominent person, would be sending hundreds of photos of their member out to women, and then when Andrew Breitbart comes out and reports on it, they say he hacked Wiener and put it out. Wiener knew that wasn't true. I mean, this is incredible. How not only did he lie about it, he tried to frame Andrew Breitbart. I mean, these guys...
But Alex, who does his wife work for?
Hillary.
And don't you remember the Bill story?
Well, she's the special. Well, Bill said Hillary's...
made up the Monica Lewinsky. I didn't have sex with that woman's story. I smoked, but I didn't inhale Bill Clinton. This is what they do all the time. What's the surprise? I said it over and over again.
Stay there. We got a break. Got a break. Incredible. Gerald Celente straight ahead. We'll cover the spectrum of news. Stay with us. Joining us, Gerald Celente is our guest. Up on our Twitter feed that you can follow at Infowars.com, we have a big headline area there that says exclusive, continually updated area at Infowars.com. We're also going to get this special page posted up at PrisonPlanet.com that has links to our live video feeds, photo feeds, and so much more. But we now have the blown-up photos of the concentration camp-style floodlights, the special tripods with cameras every 10, 15 feet or so. That's all up there right now. And we do have... from Jim Tucker, this is breaking here, what their agenda is, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment. In fact, let's just get into it now. What do you think of this agenda? Directly from his multiple sources inside Bilderberg, and we also have the intel, Trust But Verify, confirming that the West is behind trying to trigger a lot of these Arab uprisings to drive up oil prices, start a larger regional war. As you said a year ago, they would try to trigger a war as a political smokescreen so we'd rally around them. That they're upset that Congress is starting to wake up to the fact that Obama didn't have congressional approval and used UN authority to do it. They want a wider, giant war in the Middle East. This is directly from inside. They want continued bailouts, not just to Greece, but they want to secure unlimited trillions in a second round of profiteering that they call bailouts. So that's being haggled over. They're picking the new IMF head. Even Swiss press has reported that. But this is all very newsworthy here. But no, you won't see it in the U.S. other than Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. We hope the Drudge Report picks all this up as it develops. Also, they want to go after the alternative media, and we see inside, mirrored by Public, Sarkozy and others 2 weeks ago at the EU meeting, Gerald, openly saying that they do want to clamp down on the freedom of the press and the web and start censoring people and taxing the web. This is big news, and they're trying to get their carbon tax through. All that from inside Bilderberg. What's your take on that agenda?
Well, it's the agenda that's been going on now for quite some time. First of all, let's look at they have to continue to print the digital money, not worth the paper it's not printed on. So that's why we still believe gold 2,000 and above. You saw the unemployment numbers last week, worse than expected. And I love the language, again, the white shoe boy language, that economists are downgrading their forecast. Downgrading? You mean they got it wrong? No, they downgrade. When we get something wrong, oh, then it's wrong, but not them. And then let's keep going on here, Alex. They've already historically engineered the first great war of the 21st century that we said was going to begin and has begun. Now they're calling it, I love it, pro-democracy movements. Pro-democracy movements? This has nothing to do about democracy. It has to do with a lot of angry people, a lot of angry Greeks, a lot of angry Tunisians and Egyptians, a lot of angry Bahrains and from Yemen. And what's the same story? Young people, Spain, 50% unemployment, with university degrees and worthlessness, no future in front of them. And the past has been stolen and continues to be stolen by the corrupt few at the top, the Goldman Sachs gang, the Credit Suisse boys, the Deutsche Bank bandits, one criminal group after another. How about that lovely, lovely guy, Steve Schwarzman, that's bringing down the healthcare system as we speak right now in England? Steve Schwarzman, the CEO of the Blackstone Group, who, when they were going to raise the tax rate for hedge funds, he said, quote, it's the equivalent of Adolf Hitler invading Poland in 1939. These are the people that are robbing us blind. So what they're saying, it's a pro-democracy movement. This has nothing to do with democracy.
Well, more than that, though, Gerald,
a lot of angry people.
They knew that the tree was about to fall on their house in the Middle East, so they decided to put a chain on it, pull it the other direction, and start the cutting in a controlled burn in Libya, in Egypt, in all these countries. It's admitted that the State Department, CIA, MI6, Mossad did run it. And they're putting even worse military dictators in, is what they've now done, totally banning protests in Egypt. And the folks are still rebelling, but now Anderson Cooper isn't covering it and hailing it. So the Bilderberg boys want a wide collapse in the Middle East to drive up oil prices to further bankrupt the general population. Kurt Nemo's got this key boil-down report coming out soon at Infowars.com. Gerald, stay there. Riding shotgun with us for the rest of the hour. We're going to go back to Gerald here in a moment. Be sure and check out his very informative website, trendsresearch.com. He's the founder of the Trends Research Institute in 1980. He's the national best-selling author of Trends 2000 and Trends Tracking. Trends Research Institute covers 300 diversified trends. He has a great team, including former Wall Street Journal editor Dr. Paul Craig Roberts working with him. And he's earned the reputation as one of the most trusted names in trends by accurately forecasting hundreds of social, business, consumer, environmental, economic, political, entertainment, and technology. Gerald Celente. Folks, Bilderberg protest, we're going to get it out. It's on. Get it out. Get our Twitter out. In fact, calling everyone who loves liberty. The banksters are coming. They're in Switzerland. What is it? Twoeth by sea, oneth by land. Am I getting that right with Paul Revere? I mean, it's here. They've come by land. They're setting up the next level of implosion, and then they'll come back and say, give us even more power, and we'll save you. But it only gets worse. This is how third world countries became third world countries. So again, key search term, Bilderberg protest. 2 words, hit them hard. Gerald Celente, what do you think of the idea?
I'm going to tweet it. You can count on me. I'll keep it going. Anything. Absolutely. But again, what the people have to do is they really have to understand that they must stand up. I just got back from Ireland, and I was a bit disheartened, I have to say. Whatever happened to those fighting Irish? They're rolling over. The government is now putting water taxes on them, more property taxes to bail out the banks. And it's very simple. I said to them, take 1 letter and change it. Iceland, Ireland. Put that C in Ireland. Don't pay the banks. Screw the bankers. That's all you have to do. You look at every nation that has shoved it back to the IMF, and they're all doing better. The IMF is nothing more than a crime syndicate. As I said, it's the International Mafia Federation.
Hey, we got their IMF World Bank documents in 2002. When Stiglitz left, they got leaked. BBC, it was how they go in, how they buy out the politicians, how they get the finance ministers in, how they have them buy these investments. Then they implode it. Then the economy implodes. Then riots start. They call it the IMF riot. Then that destroys credibility even more. The stocks go down. They come in and buy them up for pennies on the dollar. We have them. They should all be arrested. And we have good Swiss ministers calling for their arrest. So the Swiss people, high noon, Saturday, need to be there, Gerald.
Yes. And going back and tying this all together, Alex, let's not forget just a month ago, don't you feel a lot better now that Osama bin Laden, you know, that fairy tale they told us? Isn't our life just great after that fairy tale happened? But today, just listen to the chief of NATO, the NATO chief. We need, quote, wider participation in Libya. Wider participation? This is a psychopath talking. He calls wanton murder wider participation.
Well, they call the war kinetic action. And it's going to last days, Obama said. He promised. And he didn't need Congress's approval. He said, I have UN approval, and I went to the UN to increase its, quote, credibility. It's treason. I don't just use that word. It's naked, in our face, elephant sitting on us. The elephant's not in the room. It's sitting on us. And I want out of the elephant's rear end.
Well, listen, that's the point that I'm trying to make, is exactly that. Because what they're going to do, by the time Election Day comes, and the economy's in much worse shape than it is now, count on a terror strike, more war. You saw how effectively that terror bandwagon rolls. Go back 4 days, April 27th. Before Osama or Barack Osama, Obama, whoever, before he hit the stage and said, our core interests and those of our allies are at stake, so I'm going to war against Libya. Go back 4 days before. Osama Ben Bernanke, public enemy #1, gave the first ever press conference of the Federal Reserve. By the time he finished his dog and pony show, gold prices shot up, $20 an ounce. Silver spiked. The dollar hit a 3-year low against a trade-weighted basket of currency.
Nobody buys what these crooks say anymore.
But what happened 4 days later, when Osama was back in the news, hey, we fitted him with these cement shoes, and now he's swimming with the fishes. I mean, who could believe this story? Commodity prices dove. Gold fell from 1570s down to around 1500. The power of Osama, Barack Osama Hussein, whatever his name is, whatever his passport says.
It was irrational exuberance. High five, and we won. Everything's fine. Meanwhile, the bankers are just stealing everything, setting up mafia deals where, oh, you don't have to get insurance if you're an Obama insider. Your company doesn't. Oh, you're GE. You can build more power plants. You get a waiver. I mean, everything they do is total mafia right out of the classic book. But, oh, we were taught, like you said, that archetype, only Italians are involved in organized crime. Not the blank fines, not the Bushes, no, not the Dominique Strauss-Kahns, only those Italians. No anybody else. Anybody who's old with a bald head and a suit, you got to fall down, open your wrist up to them, give them all your money, give them your whole future. They now admit the average household owes... Well, I saw a number like 527,000. Here's USA Today per household, just on one part of unfunded future promises. So it isn't 14-something trillion. It's in the hundreds and hundreds of trillions. We could have already paid all this off, but they have signed us on to the fiat Ponzi rat droppings that Bernanke and Paulson and before him. Greenspan and the end of Glass-Steagall, these droppings they left, and then they make us pay to literally eat their droppings, and they tell us that it's the finest filet mignon when it's a steaming pile of horse dung. America, the world, the Swiss, these are the criminals. They're not going to stop. I'm sorry, Gerald.
Well, that's it, and that's very important, because what I'm saying is by the time the elections come in 2012, the people are going to be cheering on. They're going to, whether it's a false flag, which most likely, or something real because the United States keeps starting wars all over the world, the mind won't be on the economy. They're going to do a Bush. And I can see it happening. The first great war of the 21st century has begun. Look what's not making the news. Albania. They're starting war over there again. The people are fed up with the criminal system. You're going to see it in Romania, Bulgaria, Latvia, Lithuania, Hungary, the spring, the Arab Spring that they call. Now we're going to see a European summer, and get ready for a world winter. They're leading us to war. They're going to divert our attention. Listen to Bernie Madoff, the king of Ponzi. He did an interview in New York Magazine over the telephone, and he said two things. He said, when I got into Wall Street, I realized you had to be a member of the club and the game is rigged. Number two, he said, it's nothing more than one big Ponzi scheme. This is coming from the king of Ponzi. It's a Ponzi scheme. They're suckering in the people by shoving that money out there to keep the scam going. It's going to collapse, but our minds will be off it. Alex, the timeline. The crash of '29, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars. The panic of '08, the Great Recession, which is a depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War II in the 30s, the first great war of the 21st century in 2012 and beyond.
It's incredible. And now they're announcing, and they said they do this years ago. I've laid it all out for listeners, explained it. First, they take the belt off, take the shoes off, take the jacket off. Now we're going to touch the outside of your pants. Now we're going to touch the inside. Now you got to go in the scanner. Well, don't worry. You don't have to put your hands up now. And they've announced it, and they've released photos of it. You have trusted traveler, normal, and untrusted. And it's a whole new judicial system where there's no judge, no jury. You're just put on the no-fly list. 2 million Americans now on it. And then they say you can't buy guns now. They want to just extrajudicially, because the FBI has the NICS system, not a law. They just say, oh, you can't have a gun, but I don't even have a misdemeanor. We say, well, why do you say? Well, we say, so if you're on the list, you go through the full grope down, the body scan, the interrogation. Normal, you just go through a body scan. But if you're a good little slave, you walk through and retina scan your retina. If you've enrolled and gotten permission from them to just have to retina scan. But they said, sometimes we're still going to grope you anyway. So it's like, oh, we got, and the headlines are how they've got all these wonderful new systems. Former TSA officer sentenced to 30 months for taking bribes. Sorry, that's a new article out of New Jersey Today. Here's one. Coming to an airport near you, iris scans. Here's another one. Airlines aim to take hassle out of security checks. See, they always act like, oh, it's the new thing to make it better. Just like Obama said, don't worry, you can ride on the new national train system in a State of the Union that they'll never build. And there won't be checkpoints there or body scanners. He knew full well for 7 years they've been doing drills and spot checks. Now they're rolling out nationwide, even at high school proms. It's the total national security force training you that they have mobile vans, checkpoints. They're going to search everybody. They're getting us ready for martial law, Gerald, under another name. And notice they're now announcing all of this. And Al-Qaeda is supposedly led by Adam Perlman, a.k.a. Gaddafi, who's Jewish, and his granddaddy ran the ADL, but whatever. Okay, Al-Qaeda follows the ADL guy. He says, oh, those gun shows, it's so wonderful. We can get guns and kill Americans. The media's like, we got to ban the gun shows and ban semi-auto now because of Al-Qaeda. I mean, it's so clear. They make it up. They use it. It's all theater, Gerald.
Alex, you talked about martial law. I'm urging everyone to consider economic martial law because that's what's going to happen next. Just as 9/11 happened, whether or not it was real or whatever, the fact is 2 buildings came down and the Pentagon was whacked. How it happened, forget it. The issue is they closed Wall Street. If you had certificates of deposit, you couldn't cash them in. I know because I tried. What I'm doing, and only speaking for myself, I urge those that can think for themselves to consider making sure you don't have a lot of money in the bank because you ain't going to get it out. And if you have your gold stored there or somewhere else in one of those federal institutions, kiss it goodbye. And if they do let you get your money out, that dollar won't be worth a dime. It's hardly worth a dime now. Look what it's doing against the basket of currencies because they're going to devalue it. And don't worry, you won't be able to get it out at all.
Gerald, stay there. Stay there. This is key information. You're absolutely right. They're gearing up for it. They've changed the banking rules to be able to do it. They're now kicking down doors with federal SWAT teams over unpaid college dues. It's on. Economic martial law. Celente's final segment. I've been ranting. He's got so much for us. I didn't even ask him during the break. He's probably got to go here at the 1-minute break. If he wants to go 5 minutes in the next hour, he can. So much happening, Gerald. What else is on your radar screen that we haven't talked about or discussed today?
I'd like to pick up what you were talking about with the TSA and groping and how people just submit. I just flew out of Newark and I wouldn't go through the x-ray machine, so I opted out. But as I'm waiting online, I'm watching the sheeple go through. And I was thinking to myself, they could have the freight train on the other side of the door, and they would just get in and take them off to the FEMA camps, and they wouldn't say a peep. And I have to say how discouraged I am at the lack of courage that people have. And then, going through the whole routine. I mean, come on, let's stop with this terrorist stuff. Yeah, I look like the kind of guy that's going to blow the plane up. And if I wanted to blow something up, I mean, do I have to get on a plane to do it? So this is all a scam. But I have to tell you how discouraged I am to see the people so willfully submit. And they're going to continue to willfully submit, just as they did, as they all applauded Osama, Obama, Barack Hussein, whatever his name is.
And by the way, whenever terrorist Al-Qaeda blows up a World Trade Center or something like that, I've gone out at night. People are buying steaks, beer. It's fun to watch the people dying and to feel hurt and get upset. That's how decadent a large portion of the population is. They didn't get scared. They got excited like it was a spectacle, and then it's fun to give your rights up, and, oh, then the government anthrax gets mailed, and it's fun to get scared of that. But that's a group that's going to suck their thumbs. There's a growing group, a minority, but it's approaching a majority, that is not going to be slaves, and that's what the globalists need to understand. They're not going to be able to beat us, and we're identifying them, and we're not going into this long night. We are going to stop their world government takeover.
That's right. And, I remember being on your show recently when Fukushima broke out, and you and I were adamant about it, that you were showing the footage of this thing blowing up, And we're saying, no, this is a meltdown. And how they lied. How they lied. And they keep lying. And the people... It's out of the news. Nobody's talking about it.
No, they said it was a conspiracy theory when that people were saying that they'd had meltdown. Now they admit 3 total meltdowns, including a plutonium reactor blowing rods 3,000 feet in the sky, at least 10 times worse now total. And we had scientists on who had the meters and said isotopes are being released that are only released in beyond meltdown, actual mini nuclear explosions, Gerald. And it's incredible. They knew the whole time.
They knew the whole time, and they're lying to us every day, every minute. And I listen to these Republicans. You know, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in either of these mafia parties. And I'm listening to them now about, you know, we have to cut back on the budget. Not one peep about cutting the defense budget. And what are they talking about? We have to keep our guns aimed in Afghanistan. And what are they going to do? They're going to bring in soldiers of the Fortune 500 into Iraq. They're pulling out the soldiers and then putting in the defense contractors, mercenaries. And another thing, Alex, another trend that everybody should pay a lot of attention to, and it ties in with so many of your advertisers, and if you're going to make money and stay alive and stay healthy, look at this E. coli outbreak. Look how they're pushing that out of the news.
Stay there, stay there. Can you do 5 more minutes and finish up with that?
I can.
Okay, good. Gerald Celente has some really exciting news. Gerald, even on national news, usually only does 30 minutes, but he's going to stay with us 20 minutes into this hour to take a few of your questions on trends, specifically only for Gerald Celente, folks. 1-800-259-9231, 1-800-259-9231 for specific questions for Gerald Celente coming up in the next segment. Then later in the hour, live video reports from Switzerland at Bilderberg with Aaron Dykes and Paul Watson. Gerald, you were getting into the E. coli and how they keep blaming this organic food, that organic food, and moving down the line when it's clearly genetically engineered, and they're going to use this to try to have government clamp down further on farms and ranches to help big agri. Gerald Celente.
Well, that's it. It's, you know, they control everything. Look at that Senate Bill 501 that they shoved through. So what we're telling people is that when you really put all the pieces together, the air, the food, the water, you know, they're killing us in 100 different ways. You know, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Alex. I have an honorary doctorate from the National University of Health Sciences. Health Sciences for the work I've done over the many years in complementary medicine. And the first book I worked on back in the 1980s was called Natural Healing. So in this summer that's coming ahead, this is the time to really, really get in shape, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The products that you sell, the heirloom seeds, having your e-foods on hand, this is real. The radiation's in the air. The food system is being poisoned. We don't have a shot. And the only shot we do have is if we take it in our own hands. And I want to talk also about your Midas resources and the importance for me in owning gold and silver. Current events form future trends. Look at these solar flares. This isn't, you know, this isn't conspiracy theorist stuff. This is NASA talking about it. And there's going to be a lot more of them coming this year. When you go back to the 1800s when they had telegraph and the Carrington event fried them, they were out. Just think what they're going to do to the internet. And let's all understand there's no money out there. It's all digital money. But it won't fry gold. It won't fry silver as it fries the electronic system. And I see this guy from another planet, this Steve Jobs, talking about the wonders of cloud computing. What cloud computing? There's no clouds out there. You're just putting your information on somebody else's server. And if this happens the way a lot of scientists are saying, you're going to see a big meltdown, a big frying system.
Well, they're engineering it, admittedly, where the devices won't allow you. At first, you just have certain stuff on the cloud, but they admit, and I talked about this a decade ago, and that's what Internet 2 is. You've got a domain on a bigger domain and have no rights, like YouTube. You've got your stuff on somebody else's system, and you sign your rights away to agree, and you're like, well, I'll just keep my stuff on my server. The devices, and they're getting together at Bilderberg, that's why they get these guys together, they're getting together to make it where the devices soon won't work with your own computer or your own servers. You'll have to be in their cloud, Gerald. I'm glad you brought that up. The Food Safety Modernization Act, that means radiating it, spraying live viruses on it that eat the E. coli bacteria but cause mutations, narrowly was defeated. But it passed the Senate, got defeated in the House. Started in the House, went to the Senate, and they never got it done between the conference committee. They have reintroduced it, and you knew this was coming, and Europe's doing the same thing because of the E. coli 20 or so deaths and the hundreds that are sick in Europe. And it's in the European press that scientists are saying, this has had genes added. This didn't naturally mutate. And British intelligence says Al-Qaeda did it. Al-Qaeda did it. And don't worry, we told you last week, and this week it was coming. They've introduced these bills, and in the Food Safety Act last year, I haven't had a chance to read the new version yet, because when Gerald said that, I had a feeling and searched Food Safety Act, and boom, reintroduced today. I haven't had time to read the text yet, and last time it said, adopt the UN's treaty Codex Alimentarius. A treaty in there. Under UN law, you saw the headlines, Daily Mail and others in the last month, BBC, hundreds of vitamins and minerals and herbal remedies pulled from shelves in England and Europe under EU rules. Never thought it would happen. It's happening. And they put it in this bill. And when it wouldn't pass that week, $17 million was given by 5 mega agribusinesses to the House and Senate. The biggest spending for agriculture legislation in a week on record. And in there, it shuts down your local farm and ranch. You can't even can strawberries and give them to your neighbor. You can't even serve it to your neighbor at dinner. SWAT teams, you see them SWAT teaming Amish without even having the laws, attacking health food stores. Folks, they're now sending federal goons kicking down doors with local police under their command without warrants for unpaid tuition. Student loans. I mean, that's illegal. I've studied it. We don't have debt prisons here like England had. They got rid of it. There was riots and wars over this. It's all coming back. I mean, how does Bank of America take a house they never even owned or have the deed to and was paid for in cash? They were never connected. They just do it. I know I'm ranting. I want to go to your calls for Gerald Celente, but Senator Kristen Gillibrand announces food safety legislation, and they go on to say they're basically introducing the same thing. And the British government admitted in 2000 that it was weaponized foot and mouth that was taken out of a level 4 weapons lab. They said by an animal rights activist, maybe. No, and it showed up in dozens of spots in one day. No, the government distributed it and then used it to try to shut down the farms over there. Mystery diseases are killing people's sheep. I was getting calls when I was on European radio. Gerald, I'm ranting. It's just you brought this up and it opens up a whole nother paradigm. They are so lawless because in the Food Safety Act, Big Agri is exempt, and they're the ones that are responsible in every major case for the E. coli deaths and salmonella, but then they come in and want to shut us down. I mean, it's total slavery, Gerald.
It is. And when you talk about student debts, there's student serfs. You don't get out of that debt. Thanks to Joe Biden, when he was senator of the loophole state down there in Delaware, they pushed that through. You're an indentured servant for the rest of your life. Get it in your head. You take out those student loans, they own you. It's student-owned, not loaned. You're borrowing for the rest of your life to pay them off. And then when you talk about what they're scaring us now with food, if it's food, terror, war, it's a very simple formula, Alex, and it's as old as the hills. They get you with fear and hysteria. Those are the tools of the politicians and the religious fanatics. They're in the same club. And just to mention, the only way that fear and hysteria are quashed is by beauty. Beauty of the mind, the spirit, the heart, and the soul. Beauty is the antidote to fear, and people shouldn't forget that. Because if you do, you're going to be engulfed by their hysteria and fear, and get on that cattle car. There's a place at a FEMA camp waiting for you.
And by the way, we said many years ago they would roll the FEMA camps out as places to help people that couldn't pay their bills. That's how Germany started it in 34, 35. First, you're in a ghetto. You can't run your businesses. Once you run out of money, we don't let you leave the area because we're not authorizing your papers. Then, oh, you're poor. We're going to load you up and take you to a work camp where you can pay to take care of yourself. They're now in California and Hawaii locking the homeless up. People are like, well, good. Well, it's you next. And, oh, talking about making them work. So it's on. And everything we've seen is now being repeated. I want to go to loaded phone lines here before we get to as many as we can, Gerald Celente. And again, for folks that just joined us, people can subscribe and find out more at trendsresearch.com. And valuable weekly news blast and the quarterly magazine reports there at the key website, trendsresearch.com. And he also has some other alternate URLs that'll get you to the same place. But, Gerald, this is a transformation into classical tyranny. And what you just said is so true. Whenever I'm worried, whenever I'm upset, I'm not in fear. I'm more in a rage to defeat these people, and that is a good thing. But I'll just lay out under the trees and look at the blue sky and beauty. In my most instinctive level, the globalists are ugly. They create ugliness. They hate beauty. You look at the art they buy. They're into sickness. And I just feel like throwing myself into the gears to defeat them for beauty. The beauty of my innocent children, the beauty of innocence, the beauty of wholesomeness and private property and families, everything they assault. And then I have no fear. I am ready to die if need be to defend beauty. And what you said right there is very touching, because that is exactly what is in my soul.
Yeah, we can't forget the human spirit. And that's what they've taken away from us, because art is the way of finding the true meaning of the human spirit. Do you need any more proof than the Renaissance that was followed by the Black Death? Do you need any more proof when you see the greatness of the pyramids and the civilizations before of what beauty is created? This has become nothing more than a disgusting bottom-line society. Isn't it wonderful going into a Walmart, having the experience of walking into a large self-storage unit? So we can change it. But we have to change ourselves. There's this great line, Alex, from the Hindus. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. The people have to get ready. They have to get in shape physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the advertisers that you have on your show help them get there.
Absolutely. And folks, by funding alternative media, you're voting in the marketplace. You're listening to us on local AM and FMs. You're a business owner. Go sponsor that station and tell them we're doing this because you put Alex Jones on weekdays. You put him on in prime time. Folks, it's happening. This message of liberty, the people are ready, but you've got to deliver it. Let's go to Alex in Illinois. You're on the air with our guest, Gerald Celente.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Gerald. I appreciate your time and taking my call. Originally, I called with a question about hyperinflation and whether or not, in your opinion, QE3 would actually lead to that scenario and how it would affect the working American's everyday life. But since I've been on hold listening, I'd actually like to change my question, and I'd like to ask Gerald's opinion about coitus alimentarius and how he thinks that would affect the economy. Would it drive up food costs? Are we looking at food riots, or what's that going to do?
Oh, yeah, they're going to have a monopoly to shut everything down. And I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Gerald.
Yeah, no, they are. Of course it's going to affect us. And worse than that, it's going to affect our health. And anybody that doesn't think that there's you don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to talk about a new world order. Just look at where the money goes from the Federal Reserve, what they call their discount window. It goes to most of the banks overseas. Look what happened when they found out $20 trillion of backdoor loans sent out. Where did it go? To banks overseas. It's a control by big pharma. That's all it is. They've turned this nation into a nation of junk food junkies and drug prescription addicts. I mean, can't you see it? And it's going to continue in that level with this more legislation.
Gerald, I go to
from
third
the
world
UN.
countries, and the children have electricity in their eyes. I go to restaurants and places, and the kids... I was in a restaurant this weekend, and literally I couldn't find small children, ages 3 to, say, 10, who didn't act and behave mentally retarded.
And look what we look like as a nation. You know my line, Alex? Break the chains. I don't eat chain food. I don't shop in chain stores. I buy everything I can local. And I believe in the golden rule. Both of them. Do unto others, you would have them do unto you. And those that have the gold rule. And I don't dig the Chinese ruling me. It's bad enough right now. So we have to support each other.
Absolutely. Let's jam a call in here. Mary in New York, you're on the air. Go ahead, Mary. Okay, let's go to Mark. Go ahead.
Mark, hi. My name is Mark in Brooklyn. Mr. Celente, I love it when you're on the radio. My question is, for those of us who are unfortunately disabled and are living below the poverty line already, and we can't afford to buy gold and silver, what are the best things we can do to protect ourselves in this oncoming hellstorm that we're facing?
You know, it's really hard. Just keep making your voice heard as much as you can. Everything that you put into your body, you know, put the best you can. I have a dear friend of mine who's a quadriplegic. He lives out in Denver. And he became a Buddhist, and he said he couldn't make it through the day if he didn't meditate every day. And it goes back into getting in, as I said, shape as best you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's the best we can do. And surround yourself, as I said, with the beauty that you can do. You know, beauty doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It means not buying crap. And it means associating with people that aren't afflicted with negativity all the time.
Absolutely. It's realizing how powerful you are and that you do have power and these globalists can be defeated. Gerald Celente, amazing to talk to you. We'll see if you can stay 5 more minutes and take a few more calls. Then we're going to build a segment with Gerald Celente. I'll try to cram in some of your calls, and regardless, I'll get to everybody. Later in the transmission, we're going back to Bilderberg Group to cover what's happening there in Switzerland. We've gotten the big inside scoop on what's going on. Again, I want to encourage everybody to support the alternative media and support themselves. Support those that tell the truth. That's voting with your dollars to build the liberty movement against tyranny. And one of the great outposts of truth in this system of lies is the Trends Research Journal, trendsresearch.com, with founder Gerald Celente. Find out about it at trendsresearch.com. I want to just jam in one final phone call here for now with Gerald, or maybe 2, but quick questions. Tim in Washington, you're on the air with Gerald Celente.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How's it going today?
Good.
I was kind of curious. I've been doing some research in history, and it comes to find out that these bankers have amassed a mercenary army to imprison the population. Is there a way to reverse that by amassing our own mercenary army to imprison them?
Well, that's why they want a global private corporate system that is above the law. Gerald, your view on that?
No, we're not. We can't meet violence with violence. It has to be an intellectual revolution. You know, one of the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit. And again, we could outflank them. They're very easily defeated. As I said, I really believe a solution is direct democracy. Let the people vote. Let the people vote. This is America. I don't need Pelosi. I don't need Bonner. I don't need any of them telling me what I should think or what I should believe.
And you notice...
I've had it. We could make it happen, Alex. We could do it through the internet. It's journalism 2.0. It's democracy 2.0. Let the people vote.
Well, going back to something you just mentioned, the Pentagon, for at least 2 decades, has said that 90% of their operations are psychological, and they admit they do it against the American people, where people will just slit their wrist if they're told it's for the military. But then when the military's being hurt by the bankers, people say, well, that's fine because the TV didn't tell me that was a problem. But 90% 9 times out of 10, it is psychological. That's why they try to dumb us down. If we rise above and become aware of what they've done and wake up to the false narratives they've given us, we can defeat these people. They're a paper tiger.
Exactly, and I've been there. I used to work in the New York State Senate. I worked in Washington, D.C. I know what it looks like. They're nothing. They're a bunch of wieners. Capiche? How much more do you have to know? Look at this guy. There are 500 and something of him. They're all alike with the exception of a few, like a Ron Paul. A few men out there. The rest are wieners. And I'd also like to say this, Alex, that this is a very crucial time. If we don't act now, we're lost. So everybody should stand up, speak out, expose the hypocrites for who they are.
God bless you. Great job. The Bilderberg protest, people all over Europe converging this next Saturday in 3 days at high noon. So we got 3 days to get this going, ladies and gentlemen. They're in Switzerland. Go there. The Swiss people, go there and let the criminals know you're aware of them. Contact the media, demand they cover it, and identify the criminals that have engineered this are meeting there. We now have learned a large part of their agenda. That'll be breaking soon at Infowars.com with Kurt Nimmo in a written article. Hopefully it'll be up at Drudge. We just had fragmentary reports so far because we've been collating audio, video, and still shots up at the site in the exclusive live video and photos from Bilderberg, continually updated section at Infowars.com. Gerald Celente, we'll talk to you again very soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing you Saturday night in New York.
All right, great.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to have dinner, Ted Anderson, myself, and him after I give the speech. I'm flying back Sunday, right? Not Saturday night. I think I am flying back Sunday morning because I usually just go into New York, boom, get out. And I thought, well, why not maybe go to the museum or something after I give the speech? I won't be hanging around. I know that. Sean Hannity might try to get me. I'm joking. At the event at Talkers 2011.